Is the interest rate mandated by state law? This is a great question, and I can't wait to dig into this. You're going to love it. The interest rate, 16, 18, 36%. This is a mystery that baffles even property owners, and we're going to show you exactly how to demystify that in this video. Have you thought to yourself, why are there such high interest rates on this? We'll explain that. If you ask yourself, well, what happens if they don't pay? And how did they come up with the redemption? What are all the factors that are taking place when it comes to setting the interest rate with the counties? And what happens with this whole process? And what makes it so secure? Why is this considered one of the best kept secrets on investing in the United States today? We're going to cover all that here today. Now, before we do, like, subscribe, bell, all that good stuff. But if you have any questions, this is a big video. I love this video. Just type in the questions in there. I'll make sure I answer them for you. I do those personally, and we'll have some fun. So let's get into it. Is the interest rate mandated by law? The answer is yes. Okay, so how do they come up with that? The interest rate, as far as where they're coming up with it, is state mandated. So it's a state law. This is really interesting. I'm really excited about diving into this because this goes through the foundational piece, or the history of tax lien certificates. What makes them so secure? Well, first of all, it is state statute. So the state will say, this is what our interest rate's going to be, this is what our redemption's going to be, and this is how we're going to proceed. But it's not just done basically out of left field. Okay, if you understand how tax liens work, you'll understand the system as a whole. Tax liens and tax deeds are the same thing. They're two different sides of the same coin. You've heard me say that before. So a tax lien certificate is at the beginning of the process. A tax deed is at the same. Tax lien becomes a tax deed was a tax lien. It's when the county allows you to get involved is what makes the difference. The state says we're going to be a lien state. As soon as somebody's delinquent 1 year, the county can go ahead and sell the back taxes, that year's back taxes. Sometimes they say, no, they're mandated to do it. Like for instance, in Florida, they say, no, you have to start the sale by the last business day of May. Okay, they have to do that. Some of them say you can or you can't. But again, this is state statute. The reason I think this is so important to understand is because every county can interpret those rules differently. So let's jump into our last little crisis we had with the pandemic. Okay, this is not political. These are just facts. So when the federal government said we're leaving this to the states, and each one of the states started making their own rules, each county interpreted them the way they wanted to. And to me, I'm like, yeah, that's the way they do tax lien certificates. For a lot of people, that was like weird. For instance, I live in California. I had friends said to me, oh, California's so locked down. I go, well, not totally. I live up in Placer County, and they weren't really locked down because they were interpreting the rules from Sacramento, 30 minutes away, completely different than Sacramento County, which, masks were required and all that other good stuff. And this isn't a political statement. This is how tax liens work. And it's like I said, when you look at a state and you break it down to the county's they're like states within a country, if you will. They're interpreting it the way they want to. Okay, so let's go to Maryland. Maryland's interest rate is 18 to 24%. What is it? Each county says we're going to do it at 18, or a county says we're going to do it at 24. For instance, in Prince George's County, it's 24%. Baltimore County, it's 18%. They're both 6-month redemption periods, but each county can address it the way they want to. Hopefully this is making sense, because if you really look at it, here's another one. Here's another perfect example. So when I'm building in County A over here, their regulations are as such, and I have to follow those regulations. Same state. I go to a County B in the same state, and they say, no, we don't do that. We're like, well, what is it? Okay, is it this one? It's whatever they say it is. I've been to counties before that say, we do not allow purchase of tax lien certificates through the mail. When I know for a fact they do. Well, the state does. But if the lady at the counter says they don't allow it, guess what? She's right. Don't argue with them. Okay, Houston versus Montgomery County, Harris County versus Montgomery County. Okay, I had a situation back in the late 90s. I was working with Montgomery County. We'd done a bunch of deals. I go to Harris County. They were doing things differently. I was young, naive, and I said, well, that's not the way they do it up here. And they got all irritated about it. The same law firm was involved. There were some letters going back and forth. I'm not going to say I caused anything, but it was, to me, it was like, well, why aren't you all doing it the same? That's when I was still learning the fact that Each county can interpret the rules differently. Now, what is going to be established, though, is that interest rate. That interest rate is going to be like, hey, it's 18% here, it's 20%, it's 10%. And then they're going to also establish how the rules are set up. Like you hear me talk about some of these places like Wyoming, Louisiana, all of those places out there have these really goofy rules out there where you're bidding down the interest rate, but you got partial ownership in the property. They're weird, okay? But that doesn't mean they're not good. What I find in any situation like that, for instance, when I see 10% in Indiana, Indiana's a perfect example. Oh, we have they're a lien state. We're going to talk about that, lien state. We say, oh, we got 10%. It's a penalty, 3-month redemption period. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? I thought you were a lien state. Oh, no, this is a supplemental sale. Why didn't you call it a supplemental sale? Well, because we don't. California. Okay, some counties in California will say that there's a 1-year redemption on deeds. Not true. Okay, what they call a redemption period is a CYA law. Basically what it says, if the county accidentally sells a property that they weren't supposed to sell, the former owner has got 1 year to contest the sale. It's not a redemption period, but that's what they call a redemption period in California. And so if I say, well, that's not a redemption period, they call them this somewhere else. They don't care. They don't go to some convention with all the counties go, let's just standardize this. They could care less actually what the county next door to them is doing, let alone in a different state that has nothing to do with them. So again, you start looking at this and you really understand that we are the United States of America. We got sovereign states all over the place. There's all sorts of history around this. You take Katrina, the hurricane down in Louisiana. A lot of controversy about it took Bush so long to put the National Guard down there and all this together. Understand your history. The federal government is not allowed to send federal troops into a state without permission from the governor, and the governor wasn't giving him permission on that. He actually sent him in early, and there's some controversy about whether that was legal or not, but that really breaks down the whole separation of state and feds on that. So this is another reason why it's state statute that the tax lien takes precedence over everything, including the IRS. Let's talk about the IRS. That is a federal agency that's only been around since 1913. Tax liens have been around since before we became a country. So if you want to look at case law on these, they've been around a lot longer on this. I know this is a lot of information. I love history, but I also love the fact that I don't care how you slice a tax lien or a tax deed, you and I as the investors always come up on the winning side of this. And so it's important to understand the aspects of this. So when I talk about the timeline on a property when it comes to taxes is 5 years. Okay? Once a property is delinquent 1 year, if the counties or states' statutes are set up this way, the counties can offer those up for sale. But it has to be delinquent at least 1 year in any state in the United States. That's the one commonality. You can't take somebody's property for delinquent taxes unless they've been delinquent a minimum of 4 years. There may be some outliers, but they're pretty much 4 years. So 4 years delinquent, foreclose, a total of 5. That's how I come up with that window on that. Okay, so why is this important? Because when you're looking at a state, yeah, I'm giving you the information. I'm telling you that Louisiana is this, Nevada is this, Wyoming is this. That's great. But it's super important for you to understand how they're coming to that. Okay, how did they get with the bid down to this or the supplemental sales or the deals on this? They are obligated by law to do something with the properties that haven't sold, period. Now understand, only about 0.5% of all properties in the United States fail to pay their property taxes off. The nice thing about that is, okay, that's billions of dollars. Okay, so in all reality, the county's doing an extraordinary job, the counties, I should say, across the United States are doing an extraordinary job picking up the taxes on this thing because they're collecting 99.5%. Like I've said in the past, if a bank collected on 99.5% of all the liens that they or loans that they put out there, they'd be on the cover of Bankers R Us. You know what I mean? So the counties are doing a real good job. Not good enough. We, you and I, are the ones that contribute to that county. We have rules for them. We're putting all this money up there. You better be collecting all the money. We want accountability on it. And that's how the tax liens and the tax deeds came to fruition. Now, the difference between anywhere else in the world is this whole, it stays with the property. We are literally the only country that has tax lien certificates or tax deeds that have so much statutory law behind it that says you can't, statutory, is that the correct word? Anyways, law behind it that says you can't do this or that. For instance, the tax lien stays with the property. The interest rate is mandated by law. It supersedes all other liens and encumbrances. Can't do that anywhere else. Nowhere else in the world has it. This is why I've taught this all over the world on how to do it in the United States, because you don't have to be an American citizen to do this. Again, this is just one video. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of video out there just on this one subject. If you want to know more about this, I've got some free training that goes into this extensively. My gift to you, I want you to learn this stuff. Just click on the link down below or wherever it says down there, higginsmethod.com. And I'll also give you a free book, America's Secret Investment Strategy. That's, again, my gift to you. So do your research, be careful, and God bless.